Let me ask you this question. Have you ever thought we don't feel as close as we used to? There's no major conflict. There's nothing obviously wrong, but something is missing. What's changed?
In this video, we're going to show you 3 deeper reasons that couples lose emotional closeness, things most people never realize, and how those hidden issues quietly create distance over time.
We're Jeff and Teresa Fields, and this is Inspiring Marriages. Our mission is help couples strengthen their friendship, grow spiritually together, and realize the marriage that God has designed for them. Let's dive in. Point number 1 is emotional safety is lost. When emotional safety fades, you start holding things in. James told us in James chapter 1, verse 19, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." Your spouse has to have the freedom and has to have the opportunity to be able to come to you about anything without fear of anger or rejection or, I guess, reprisal.
Yes, yes.
There has to be, your marriage has to be a safe zone where you can go to your spouse for anything. Teresa?
That's so good. And I love how that verse says, be quick to hear and slow to speak. We've talked about this before, about communication. This is going to have to deal with our hearts and our motives. If your spouse is talking to you about something, stop and listen. Don't just say, okay, I'll wait till they get finished and then I'm going to say what I wanted to say. That's not really considering your spouse ahead of yourself or first, and then being slow to speak. Don't just want to have to say something to come back or have a way to respond to that. Just listen. A good listener is so valuable in any relationship, and especially in a marriage, because if you're listening, sometimes you have to listen past the words and listen to the heart. And remember, this is the person you married, this person. Don't try to read something into what they're saying that they're not saying. Listen with the intent of, wow, I know you're talking to me because you care about me and you want to communicate something to me. And just let them speak. Don't cut it short. Don't say, I've got to say something in response to that. You might be jumping ahead and drawing wrong conclusions from what they're saying. So be slow to speak, quick to hear, and slow to get angry. I love that, because we know this from things we've experienced, that anger really can shut down the other person in the relationship. If someone is angry or they respond with anger when you try to reach out or try to express a need or a hurt or a concern, then you feel like, I can't say anything. I can't bring this up. You start thinking, okay, I've got to walk on eggshells in this area, and how can we even talk about this topic? And we don't want that happening in our marriages, because it's not healthy. So we all have to be mature in how we're treating our spouse and how we're responding to our spouse, don't we, Jeff?
That's right. Point number 2, unprocessed hurts builds walls. So it's not usually the big issue, it's the small things. It's the small things that never get addressed. So there was a point in our marriage where we were overcommitted to things. They weren't bad things, and it wasn't the fault of anybody, and no one asked us to do more than they should have. But we were doing too much. We had good things we were doing, that the kids involved with either dance or music or something. And then, of course, we had our good things we were doing, serving our church and doing good things there. But sometimes all those things added up. And Teresa was teaching homeschooling and teaching at one point 3 different levels at the same time. And I was working. So there just wasn't a lot of connecting time. We had less energy. We had less room for each other. Eventually, we just had to have a hard conversation, and we just eventually had to say, No, we can't do everything.
Can't do everything. That's right.
It's not
Yes.
because those things were bad. It's because our marriage needed to come first.
Yes, absolutely. And it's easier to see that with someone else. Like, they seem to be doing everything. Like, when do they have time for each other? But it's a little harder to recognize it for yourselves. But I'm so glad the Lord helped us realize there was just too much going on, and we needed to start cutting some things out that would make so we could have time for us. We could have time to have conversations, to continue building connection or rebuild some connection after that. And like you said, focus on our marriage instead of so many outward things to do and be involved in.
Ephesians 4:26 tells us, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. So that means
That's powerful.
deal with things. Deal with it. If if I said something or did something that Teresa could have perceived it in a negative way, she needs to come tell me. We can't just let that fester and just go and go.
Right.
Point number 3, vulnerability will disappear. When you stop really saying what's going on in the inside, when you start putting on armor, wrong kind of armor, not the spiritual armor, the selfish armor, the soulish armor, once you start doing that to protect yourself because you don't want to be hurt, you're not sharing, you can't be vulnerable. A marriage that is intimate in all the areas, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, physically, you can be vulnerable with each
That's
other
right.
without fear of being hurt.
That is so good.
Intimacy means intimacy, where you open up your heart to the other person, that only things you would ever share with that other person, and you know that person is not going to use that against you.
That's
you know
right.
that person is not going to say things or do things to damage you in the areas that you share. Teresa?
That's really powerful. Yes. If that ever happens, then of course trust has been broken, I guess you could say. Your confidence in your spouse's ability to treat those things like a precious gift that you gave them to reveal something from deep in your soul, deep in your spirit, or a past hurt that you need to bring up because you can see it's affecting your relationship. You never, as a spouse, you never want to use that, something to put in an arsenal to use against your husband or your wife down the road. Never want to do that.
Right.
These are things that only you share, and that's what makes marriage so unique. You have this intimacy in all those 4 areas, and there has to be trust there. And don't betray that trust by telling it to your friends or talking about it in a public place. These are private things just between you and your spouse.
And sometimes it's not really a big moment. You just notice a shift where you're just not opening up or willing to open up like
That's
you used to.
right.
Galatians 6:2, Paul tells us, bear one another's, so fulfill the law of Christ, which means the anointing and the anointed one. That's how you fulfill the law of the anointing. You bear one another's burdens.
That's so good.
Key point, distance is built through what goes unspoken. And if you would like a free resource called From Lonely to Best Friends Again, there should be a link for it down below in the comments. Please grab yourself a copy. It's a 7-day devotional designed and crafted so to guide couples through a journey of becoming best friends again. Teresa?
That's right.
So in our next video, we're going to talk about how to feel close again in your marriage, even if it's been a long time. So remember, God designed husband and wife to be friends for life. And we'll see you over there.